Thank you so much, James, for the awesome introduction. I don't know why my face appears so big in the screen, but I'm gonna try to ignore it. Hi, super excited to be here. I'm Veronika, CEO of Demodesk.
Yeah, and equally, thank you, James, for the kind introduction. And I'm Lauren, VP of Revenue at Demodesk.
And today, we're super excited to share with you our findings that we actually saw through thousands of customer meetings that took place on our own platform on Demodesk, because we're a sales meeting platform. So we do know what's going on in sales meetings. And now we can also share a couple of tactics that we've discovered that work particularly well and that you also hopefully can use to support your sales team in the daily practice. And we'll also then wrap up in the end by sharing how to reinforce best practices to habit and ultimately also turn frameworks into standard and repeatable process that can ultimately drive revenue.
Yeah, great. And first, it probably helps to share just why and how we've collected these insights. What is Demodesk and what do we do? Demodesk is a sales meeting platform. So what that means is it's an alternative to functional video conferencing solutions that you might use to meet with your customers, and it's built specifically for customer meetings. So we've had a number of thousands of customer meetings over the years that we've able to glean particular insights from on what really makes the best sales pitch. And at Demodesk, ultimately, we're solving a massive problem that sales meetings, unfortunately, kind of suck. They aren't effective, they're not engaging, and they fail to convey value to buyers.
Yeah, and it's also the reason why a perfectly defined prospect that has been moved into a pipeline by an SDR actually then won't take a meeting with you, because they know that there's a very high likelihood that it won't be a good use of their time. So the end result is that you never get the sale, they continue to live the insanity of the status quo, and it's basically not a win-win, but a lose-lose situation. So when you finally hook a meeting and the buyer shows up, it's really your unique chance to be ready with the perfect pitch. And then also leaving it to Lauren to share our best practices that we've collected there.
Yeah, thanks. So, the first one, spoiler alert, is that it's not a pitch. I think everyone knows this. It's a conversation. And it's important that it is a conversation. And I think everyone knows, most people know the expression is like show up and throw up. But it happens more times than not, even with experienced reps. You tend to train your reps to have a lot of information about your product, so they feel quite confident and excited. That's all good, really good things. But unfortunately, all of that kind of spews out, especially when perhaps the buyer shares that there is, a synergy with your product. Then you get a little bit excited as a rep to share, all the things that your product does and not really continue that conversation. So one of our customers also kind of noticed this happening in their sales meetings through some of our analytics and shared this with us. And we could see that, their talk ratios were off. And we actually built a wording system into our platform so that if you're speaking for 5 minutes, you're actually warned it's time to engage your customers. So that's one thing, is just make sure it's not a pitch. Second, reps that are really good come prepared. They do their research on who they're talking to. They know the business. They know what they care about. But the reality is reps are also very, very busy. So even your best reps are not always coming to a meeting and fully prepared, or might be kind of winging it a little bit because they feel like, hey, I've been around the block, I've got some cred here, I know what I'm doing. But when they're not prepared for meetings, of course, they don't the outcomes that they want don't materialize. And so you have to figure out systems to be prepared, even when there isn't enough time to be prepared. And so that means is like having a standardized playbook, having a structure. And that parlays into the next point, is like structured meetings. Trust the process and trust the science. Many of our customers who started out with very small sales teams and scaled the most and up to hundreds of sales reps have significantly brought their teams in under a playbook and a process, and their reps follow that process. And it's something that we analyze all the time is just like, are reps adhering to the process and using the same playbook, and limiting things like small talk. So one thing we found is that actually using a very specific agenda, a tried and true agenda that works for your sales process, not in just the first meeting, but in every single meeting, and limited small talk, was a winning formula. And we personally like the ACE by winning by design. It's like very simple, but it's easy to implement. Fourth point here, reps also precondition every meeting. What I mean by precondition is that they send out not just a meeting reminder, but actually, condition the meeting for what, and prepare the customer for what they're entering into, and hopefully create some excitement. This sounds like it could be, especially if a rep is busy, not prepared for their meetings, like how are they also going to do all of this? Well, this can all be automated. You can send out automated meeting reminders, and they can also, for your entire team, for specific stages of the sales cycle, and they can also feel like they're customized for the meeting, but not be a heavy lift for you or for the rep. So think about systems to create, preconditioning for every part of the sales cycle. And reps also nurture customers during the sales cycle. So the time between those meetings, they might send out some thought leadership. They might get somebody excited about your product and feel like you're a trusted advisor, that have a specific nurture sequence that goes on during the sales cycle. They're also focused. So the best meetings that we see happen are the ones that are very, very focused, limit distractions. And the worst thing is when you have a vendor call and they start to show the demo, and all of a sudden, I personally get heart palpitations when I see like 40 or 50 windows open. And I don't know if they're going to take me through all of those different windows, or if they're just like, that's just the rest of their day or items that they need to follow up on. But it's kind of messy. It's distracting for me. And then there's also the sort of trying to follow someone's mouse around the meeting that's going everywhere. I mean, there's just a lot of distractions that can happen very easily, unintentionally. And so you have to really create a clean environment for your reps to share exactly what the buyer needs to see and nothing more. They also use customer-centric language. So what I mean by that is they're very nuanced in terms of getting the customer story right. And that means that you may have defined internally what the pains you solve are. However, if the customer shares what those pains are in their language, maybe the same pains, but it's their language. We have a customer, and we actually nicked their process, but they actually took the 3 pains that the customer shared, wrote them in their language and into our platform, where we can take notes during the platform, and that syncs back to their CRM. They set up a process so that when they collected those specific pains in their language, the specific words that they used, it synced back to their CRM, so anyone involved in that deal could use that language. And then immediately following that, the meeting, they send out a automated sort of follow-up message that had that specific language in it. And then throughout the entire sales cycle, that was the language they were using, not their own language. And it's a nuance, but it's an important part of making the buyer experience really customer-centric. Finally, the next steps. I think we all have been on a sales meeting where it went really, really well. And you feel great. Like, this is 100% going to be the best deal ever. The reality is the buyers may be in a hurry, and they say, hey, everything's going to be great. I got to bring these other people in. Just email me sometimes. And then all of a sudden, follow-up, chasing, all of those things, and then the deal goes to die a slow death in your pipeline. The reality is, when you have that moment, you need to strike while the iron's hot, and you have to hook the next meeting. So one of the kind of plays in our playbook is what we call a BAM FAM. It's book a meeting from a meeting. So if you have a scheduling link that you use, actually have that built into the playbook at the end of the playbook. And that is the last slide that will be on the playbook. And that is where you book the meeting from the meeting. And honestly, if your buyer isn't willing to book that meeting, it may not be such a good deal in the end. So it's really important to kind of to finalize that process with a BAM FAM. And that's what our customers who are most successful in scaling quickly have done, and also in creating a velocity in their pipeline. So just to wrap things up, the reality is a lot of things can be trained. A lot of best practices you can put together. You can build the best playbooks in the world and have them sitting in a beautiful place in Notion or very well organized in a sales enablement platform. But if you don't actually have a system to reinforce those best practices and bring them into the meeting, reps can listen to loads and loads of calls on your call recording platform or your conversation intelligence platform. But if they're not actually bringing those into their own practice, and you have built a system to actually bring that into the field and scale it, then they're doing a lot of things that actually aren't changing outcomes of meetings. So one of the things that we see consistently with our customers is they're dedicated to pioneering adoption of the playbook and the process in the meeting. So we use our own platform to do that, but there are a lot of systems and technology to improve productivity. So I encourage you to explore those, and hopefully you receive some good tactics that you can take away today into your daily practice.